Okay, I think it's coming up.
Yes, it says live now. Okay, Jenny, it's over to you on item 10, pension administration.
Okay, the pension administration, we got 3 recommendations for tonight. So the first is just about the performance of the LPP. So I'll just ask if anyone has any questions about the performance or the report that the LPP have provided. The SLA, good.
Sorry. Any questions to Jenny on that? No, it doesn't look like Jenny, so keep going.
Yeah, the other 2 recommendations are in connection to the 95k cap and what's been discussed earlier. So it is just a case of whether everyone is happy with those recommendations or if anyone has any further questions.
Sukhminder, did you want to ask Jenny anything? Well, you've been speaking to her, but if you want to say anything.
To her, and no doubt I'll be speaking to her every day. Few months, but no, we're not happy.
No, I understand that.
You know, and we're not happy at all, and this is cruel, actually. Yeah.
Well, it's not what people thought they'd signed up to. So for the moment then, so if we note 1 and then the other 2, I think we agree with the advice that Mercer has given us, which seems to be the only thing we can do for the moment until all of this is sort of clearer. Are people happy with that?
Agreed.
Yes, agreed. Thank you very much. And sorry, Jenny, you had to wait for such a long time, but
it's all fine.
Thank you. So thank you for that. Then that brings us on to you, Bridget, 11.
Okay, yeah. So this is the normal quarterly update report. The fund went up in that quarter. You've heard from Mercer about the valuation, which has gone up to 93% funded. You've noted the amount of cash that we're holding. Just to update that we have completed the disinvestment from Lazard UK Equity. You've also 1.7, you've heard about the infrastructure recommendation. You've also heard about the competition and markets certificate that we're going to return. You've heard about the delegation for the proxy investments. As I say, we are going to have some further information and some further calculations around that. And then topical issues, you've heard about the 95k cap, which did come very quickly. I mean, although it'd been bubbling around for a number of years, it just happened suddenly, very quickly. The other thing that is happening at the moment is there is a sort of governance review paper that has come up. And I think Hyman's were involved in this, which is looking at good governance around the LGPS, which is going to look around how you kind of, initially it was started whether you should separate the scheme completely from Ealing. But I think what they've now said is that you have to elect a senior officer who would be responsible for the pension fund, almost like a sort of semi-independent way of running the fund, but we will update you on that at the next meeting. The only other thing is about the valuation cycle. There were some recommendations which have now come back, which allows us a bit more flexibility around valuations and interim valuations. Again, we'll update on that at the next meeting. And then update on the LCIV. The LCIV is bobbling along. They don't have quite enough assets yet as they need. So they're looking at structure around how they charge for the operation of the LCIV. So they're still looking at that, and they're consulting around how they can best sort of manage the budget that they need to operate. And then you have heard about the property, and then the recommendation is to carry out a further review of property, which is 1.13. You've received your presentation on the property from Hermes. The pension fund annual general meeting, which should have taken place in March. We're not going to do it this year, but what we're doing is we're going to include the chair's statement in the abridged report that goes out. And then, you know, obviously from next year, we will look at doing it, or if we have to, if we're still doing online, by then we would be geared up to possibly provide an online experience for members. But I'm hoping that by 2022, we should be able to have a proper annual general meeting. And then the investment strategy statement has been updated to reflect all of these changes that have taken place with the infrastructure and with Lazard. And that is appended in Appendix D. And then we've talked about Optivo in the private and confidential session. And that's pretty much this report, unless you've got any questions.
Are there any questions to Bridget at all? I think people had questions, or as we were going along. So can we note and approve all of those?
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
Bridget, sorry. Bridget, you know, in terms of this disinvestment,
Yes.
you think we did it at the wrong time because the stock market shot up completely? Have we lost money or not really? I just wondered.
Well, the end bit that we did, and that was done and moved across at the same time. So we kind of stayed invested. There is an initial 55 million which we took out, which you could say we have lost out on. And I think partly that's why I'm a little bit worried about maybe investing in proxy investments, because equity markets are so highly valued at the moment. So I think it's a discussion that we will all have with Alexandra about timing, because markets have rallied, and they have rallied on news stories like, you know, the last time they rallied was when the American handover was approved, and then they rallied when you got the vaccine. So there's a lot of news stories that are driving equities, because if you look, those companies are fundamentally under a lot of pressure because they've been through a lot. But, you know, obviously with all the support from government, that there is kind of confidence, and people are moving into equities, and it's just driving that value up. And is whether that is really reflective of fundamentals or whether it's just event driven is a question. So
yeah, I think it's the cost of the going in and out. If that's okay, then it's maybe worth the risk. But I do feel we lost out a bit. I don't know how much, but I can see us having lost some in that process of us moving away from Lazard, because Lazard would have recovered quite a lot, wouldn't they, over the last couple of months?
Well, certainly the bit that we'd moved across, that kind of stayed invested the whole time.
Okay.
Yes, that's invested the whole time. Although, you know, Lazard's type of investment, the value investments, did well. But it's just one of those things. But the Lazard were always and will always continue to be behind the
benchmark.
Behind.
Well, they were behind the benchmark for quite a long time, and that's why we were concerned about them. But no, that's why I asked the question about going in and out, the costs of that. So we have to sort of weigh all of that up. Are there any other questions? No. So can we note and agree those recommendations? Agreed.
Agreed.
Right, thank you. And then that brings us on just to item 12, which is just the report, isn't it? Which, as you say, is going to go out in a condensed form with a letter from me. So are people happy with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I think we've done better than I thought we would, because I didn't really want to rush Hermes, because we hadn't had anybody from property for a long time. So I thought it was quite important that we let them say their bit. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's it, isn't it, Bridget?
Yes, that is it.
Yes. Well, thank you, and goodbye to everybody, and see you later. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all. Oh, and Keith, if you'd be kind enough to send that link to people, the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum has a conference on next week, and as we pay so much a year, they're quite happy for anyone to dip into it. So if you wouldn't mind sending that to everybody.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Okay.